back, everybody. Welcome back to the show. I have Adrianne Wagner with us today. Welcome, Adrianne.
Thank you so much, Amy. Thanks for having me today.
I'm super excited to dive into this. This is such important topics, all the things that you teach and the work you do. My goodness, is this so needed. And before we dive into the content, let's share with everybody a little bit about you and where you're located and a little bit of your backstory that you want to let us know about.
Sure. Well, my name's Adrianne Wagner, and I am located just north of Seattle in Snohomish County. And I moved here. I'm not originally from here, which a lot of people are not from here. We have a lot of transplants in the area. I'm originally from Michigan, grew up in Flint, and moved out here in 2006 and was a healthcare executive for 17, 18-ish years. And then I burned out. Pretty miraculously. So the pandemic was a big deal, and raising some kids and trying to get through it and keep my head on tight was also a pretty big deal. And so I decided at that point to take a break and hit an intentional pause button. And so I've devoted the rest of my career, which I call the second half, after a career halftime, on really helping others and becoming a leadership coach, trying to figure out what lessons that I've had over life and how I can apply that and help other people find what they need. And now I have the distinct pleasure of running a couple of nonprofit organizations focused on leadership and doing my own thing. And it's quite amazing. I'm very blessed.
I love this. This is so inspiring for the rest of us because, my goodness, like who isn't teetering on burnout in our current culture, right? I mean, we are facing just huge issues in the world today that really humanity has never seen before. I mean, I don't know anybody pretty much not overwhelmed and just going crazy. I just talked to one of my best friends today, a few minutes before we hopped on, and she's just like spinning around her head. And I'm like, honestly, everybody's like that. I mean, my mom and everyone I talk to. And I think a lot of it is, the obvious stuff. We don't have an off button anymore. There's a gazillion ways for people to reach us. There's not clear boundaries, right? Like work, this, that. Everything's up in the air. Who do you trust? What's true? What's real? What's AI? It's Nutsville. So I'm going to give another shout out to the amazing Sari Gilman, like I mentioned in the intro, because my goodness, she was the reason why I found you. And she is the queen of boundaries. That woman has changed my life. As I said in her first appearance on the show, like, as a reformed people pleaser, boundaries was like, I don't even know how to spell that word. What's that word even mean? I love the fact that you kind of had a wake-up call with your burnout. You pivoted your career. Before we jump off that, because I know a lot of people are kind of in that position. So tell us a little bit about how that came about for you, for the person listening or watching that maybe is feeling the same. Like, this job isn't fulfilling anymore. I feel like I'm drowning. I'm not fulfilled. Like, how did you get out of it to pivot and find what you love, and what can they do?
Yeah. So let me preface it all with, I have the distinct privilege of being married to a partner who has healthcare insurance. So simple things like healthcare insurance, which is quite a big expense for most Americans. And I wouldn't have been able to do any of this without him, and without that privilege of having a really big, wide cast safety net behind me. So I like to start there, because I think a lot of people, it seems like when you're burned out, you're like, I just want to quit this job, or I hate this. And I have so many jobs and I can't do everything. And what do I do? And knowing and understanding kind of what your runway is one of the first things that I talk about with clients and other people that ask, what could I do to make a big change? But I loved my job, and I was raised in a family in the Midwest where I was taught that you wait until you're asked to leave before you leave a job. You don't, just like an airplane, you don't jump out of a perfectly good airplane. You don't quit a perfectly good, high-paying job. And that was really drilled into me. And one day, after the organization had gone through quite a few changes and been acquired and been resold and all the different things like that, I realized that they're never going to ask me to leave. I might be in a corner someday and someone will find me and wonder why I'm still there. Because I was doing a good job and there really weren't any problems per se with the job. It just started to become a situation where I was getting further and further from knowing where the decisions were being made as we got more and more corporate. It got really difficult to feel like the meetings that I was going to and spending all my time in were fulfilling me and making me feel energized by the work that I was doing the way that it was. I didn't have as much close interaction with patients as I had once done as I became a regional vice president. You know, you just get further and further away from the mission and the things that you're trying to do. And so it was really a wake-up call. And I realized that maybe this ladder that I thought that I was on, this career ladder, wasn't actually a ladder, or I was on the wrong ladder or something. Didn't know where it was leading me to. So I remember very distinctly, it was in April in 2022 afternoon. We had a Monday morning series of meetings where we just met all day with the same people in the same room. And I called my husband and I said, can I quit my job without a plan? Would you support that? And he said, no. and I think what he heard was, would you support me and our entire family, because I was the higher breadwinner at the time. Okay. And yeah, the answer was no. We would have to make some pretty big sacrifices. So after we argued about that, and I explained to him what I really needed to hear was, do what you need to do, and we'll take care of the rest. He and I had a conversation, and we later, I realized, I think I just need a plan. I can quit my job, I can do this, but I really need a plan. So I think there, and my advice to people that are wondering, what do I do with my life, is I had a hard check with myself on what my values were and where I wanted to be, not actually which employer or which location, but I had come up with a framework where the basic tenor was that I could either work for anyone, any job, doing anything, as long as it aligned with my values, or get high enough in the organization and work at a level where I could change some of the things that I was having discord with. So yes, I hit this fork in the road, and I was trying to figure out what does this mean? So I started applying for some internal transfers at the national level to do the second part of what I thought I could do. And things were really slow and taking a long time. And it only somewhat reaffirmed that maybe this isn't the right organization for me. So I applied for a couple other jobs and realized that maybe I didn't want to work in the healthcare space at all anymore. And I need to be thinking otherwise, or different, very different types of healthcare jobs. So instead, I looked around and asked my friends, my professional contacts, people I'd worked with before that I knew really loved their jobs, and the people that they worked with and for, what did they like about their jobs? So I started doing these informal interviews and just seeking out people that I knew that loved the work that they were doing. And one of the people that I came across was a friend that I'd worked with in California. And he had just started working with this startup, and it was a nurse practitioner medical group startup, wonderful group. And so I started asking him what he loved about it. And he said, well, why don't you come down, see what we're all about? So I went down and had some informal conversations with folks. And one of the people that I spoke to was the founder, who I had also worked with in a previous role. And she was amazing and said all the right things as per usual. And I apparently started glowing about an experience I had with an executive coach named Jill a couple of years back. And she asked me, have you ever thought about coaching? And I hadn't, clearly. and then it was kind of the only thing that I could think about. So I started looking at schools and figuring out, maybe this is the actual part of management and leadership that I really, really loved. It was the coaching piece. And so I went back to school, and so I did some consulting and some other things just to keep the bills paid and fire on. But really, even through all those consulting experiences and exposures, it just reaffirmed again that maybe what I thought I was going to do my whole life wasn't really what I was designed and meant to do. So yeah, that's how I landed in where I'm at now. And what I really love most about both that journey and the choice that I made is that it was intentional. Yeah. It wasn't because someone thought that I should do this or that it was actually an active choice that I got to make. And it was my whole career since then has been doing things that I'm choosing specifically.
I got to tell you, that's a huge blessing because, as you know, in this day and age, a lot of people have been laid off. A lot of people have lost their jobs, and long gone are the days where you're with a company forever. I remember when I was growing up and working in my teens, like there were people in certain companies that had been there like 20, 30 years. It was like a lifetime job. It was like you mentioned, like you just don't leave, it's like a job for life. So there were many blessings for you in that you got to actually choose it. I mean, I know people even now that have been out of work for like a year and a half, they can't find something. I'll tell you what's tricky though, is that when people are in a situation and they start feeling the feelings that you had of discontent, and you got, first of all, the fact that you are even aware of your values is, as you know, you're already ahead of the game. Most people don't really know, or they think they do, but they don't put conscious energy into what is really important to me. Like, what are my values? Because if you're not in alignment to what's important in your heart, I mean, that's basically the prostitute archetype. It sounds like a nasty term, but you're basically prostituting yourself. You're compromising your heart's wisdom and what aligns with your soul for money. And it's hard because I get it. A lot of people are stuck. They got the golden handcuffs, right? They're in a situation where, okay, it's not aligned with my values. I don't like what they're doing. And to your point, you realize that you didn't have control on outcomes, and that was upsetting. And yeah, and a lot of people are like that. Like, I feel like what I'm doing isn't making a difference. I don't have a say, but they feel trapped because they got to pay for kids' school and this and that. It's very difficult. So do you have any thoughts on that for someone who's like, that's me?
Yeah, the piece about knowing your values in advance is huge. And I work with high school students and adult learners that are on their leadership journeys. And that's the first thing that we do a values assessment. And the way that I like to talk about values is really using this analogy of a tree and a root system. And if you are a tree and the roots that you have are the values, and the values are nurtured by all the things in your life around you, your family, your friends, your environment, your circumstance, all of the inputs, just like roots are. And just like a tree, if you don't have deeply rooted roots or value systems, when a storm comes, you'll fall over and you'll be one of those trees with its roots out all exposed and it will die and wither. And if you have kind of an understanding of what are those roots, what's grounding me, what are the things that I don't want to compromise, or what are the last things that I would compromise if that were the case, then you start to look at it more like a compass, and it's a directional thing that to say, okay, this person or this action or this job, this feels good in my roots. This is what kind of nurtures and helps feed my roots. It's aligned with my roots. And then they just get stronger and they spread and they get to kind of be a part of other things and other systems. So we do a lot of that work in the coaching work and also the leadership work that I do. And I had been kind of through that and wondering where I was in it. And it wasn't that there was like any one thing that is like, this violates my values. But as I got older and had kids, I was hitting the age of 40 when all of this happened. I don't think I mentioned that, but it was in some ways a midlife crisis, I think, coming to head.
That's your Uranus return right there. Your Uranus return, right about that age is when it happens.
It just, yeah. And that was the really going back to the, okay, well, what will make me feel fulfilled? Where am I my best? And what am I doing when I'm doing my best? And really with little kids after a pandemic, I really just didn't want them seeing that work was something that you dreaded, or Mondays were awful, or meetings were all that work was about. And that was the end of it. And
it just sucks the soul out of you. I mean, it's like really so draining,
Yeah. So really that was kind of the piece of it. And I do encourage people to take a deep look. It helps. There's lots. You can look at values assessments online all day, every day. And having a list to start with when I walk through with clients or people that I'm working with, we start with a big list. They narrow it down. Then they have to make some ranked choice orders and put things in, and really getting down to your top 3 or top 5. That's just the simplest way that I've done it. But there are other ways that I've worked with clients on by looking at your very best or most heightened experiences and trying to find common links of what put those things in common. And that's just another way to kind of evaluate or think about what are the values behind what I'm doing when I'm my very best.
That's cool. And I think too, a lot of us don't realize the energetics behind values. Again, when you're not aligned, that, to me, I like to call it like power leaks. You're leaking your power because you're just not aligned. And the Native Americans say, your feet, your heart, and your head are standing in the same place when you're aligned. But when you're not living and according to your values and you're compromising for whatever reason is, no matter how legitimate the reason might be, you're not in alignment. And people, the energy, the environment, something, you're just, it's not going to flow. And it's a problem. So people need to understand that there are ramifications for that. And then, if you make a conscious choice to do it anyway, well, that's fine. But it's like a thing,
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Power to you. I love that you call it career halftime.
Yeah.
That's so cute. Okay. So let's now talk about before we go off the subject, just someone like, what would you say are like the top 2 or 3 things for advice you give the younger people or whoever for leadership qualities or in them or others, or tell us a little bit about that.
Oh, that's a really good question. I think authenticity is probably the number one leadership quality that living with integrity happens to be my first and top core value.
Me too.
And being able to be authentic and be you, know who you are, and kind of think about what all of the people around you are pouring into that and how they are also getting to be authentic. I think that's a big one. And I think maybe the second one would be leading with compassion, but also having others in mind, and empathy and safety is kind of the second thing. And being able to provide a trusted space for people that's the other thing that I try to do as regularly as possible, and be that, because I realized over time that is a luxury and not everyone has that. And you can't be authentic if you're not feeling like you can be safe, or if there's something that is really harming you, or one of your identities, or something that is kind of challenging or draining that energy that you're speaking of. That those are all very kind of damning and I don't know, just they're counterproductive to anything that you'll do. Is if you can't do that as a first thing, there's a reason why safety is kind of the first thing for most businesses. Is that if people can't be there and they can't be safe, then there's no business. There's nothing. You can't really survive on anything else.
Yeah, well, you can't have authenticity if you're not feeling safe, because you are acting and living with conditions, right? Like, I don't want to act that way because the ramifications are I could be fired, or I could, someone breaks up with me, leaves me, just some kind of pushback, so that happens all the time.
Yeah. And maybe the third thing would be community. I think really figuring out who the people are around you that allow you to do that, it's not, we live kind of in this transactional time, it feels like, where everything is like, this person can do this for me, so I'm going to go align myself and be there. But community is much deeper than that. Those are the people that will lift you when you're down. They will support you and talk about you positively in rooms when you're not there. They're the folks that are on your speed dial. If you've got anything going on, it's so much better, even if they can't be the fix, just having somebody that you can trust to be there with you and walk aside you and be there to remind you that you've been through things before, and this is not the end, or this is not the worst. And even commiserate, I think having your your community, your people. I have my my group text chat groups that I go to and have basically saved me through the pandemic. I think those are the people. Those are the people that I want to tell good news to and bad news to and neutral, mundane, funny news to, things that will just, I know will make them smile or bring their day up.
Yeah, you got to find your people. There's no question. I mean, it's all about relationships. That's something I learned when my father passed away, that it's just, that's it. I mean, it really is the whole game, in one way or another. So how about navigating the different roles that particularly that women have, right? And many of them, they got 2 shifts, they got the job and they got the kids and the house and all that stuff. And, you call it intersectional identities. Tell us a little bit about what you've learned that could help anyone that's navigating many roles right now.
Really, it's so rare these days to find somebody that just has one thing. We are not one-dimensional beings. We have not only lots of professional jobs and things like that, but we're also caretakers. For a lot of us are caretakers for other people, whether it be their parents or your children or other people's parents and children and people in your life that you care about that need your help right now. That is a huge thing that is really an identity. And there are also, being a woman is also an identity and comes with its own weight and burdens and maybe stereotypes and things that you have to push against and work to prove wrong sometimes. And I would say that any person in a marginalized group and identity, people of color, people with anything that is not normative, and I think those are also identities that people carry. And the really important thing when we get into the topic of rest and being, how do you work your way out of burnout, is that for somebody that carries one or more of these identities, kind of the add on top of, it's really a multiplier. It's not just an addition problem. It's a multiplication or even an exponential problem for some folks. And so you can fix the problem at work, the one that's right in front of you. You can go on vacation. You can take some PTO, whatever your boss says you need to do to get over this hump that you're in. If you go back to work and there's still somebody discriminating against you or bullying you or harassing you, or even just maybe avoiding you, that identity layer that is causing whatever that is to happen is still going to be there. And so there's not a magic bullet to kind of work through all of the things that might be affecting a person's identity. And I think it's just really important especially for leaders to recognize that they don't know most of the identities that their staff and team are carrying. And so you could say, go do this, but then not realize that they still have that after work job of taking care of people. They're still expected to make a decision. For my dreaded text every day is, what's for dinner? I hate that question. I hate having to be the one or being expected to be the one to make all those decisions. And just carrying that mental load or the kind of the unpaid work that moms get to have. It's not that I hate being a mom. It's just there's so much expectation, even within my family and the progressive walls of this home, that there's still a lot of expectation that I be the one to do all those things. And I was the first one to be called today when my son was sick at school. Those are the things I know when all the appointments are and who to call to get all the appointments. And I'm also a household manager, and none of my bosses, except for maybe a small percentage of them, knew, recognized, appreciated all that was happening when I wasn't in the office. And I think that was a really big thing during the pandemic, is that all of those identities were heightened. And now some people were teachers,
I know,
full blown homeschooling.
Crazy.
Thankfully, my kids were younger than school age at the time, but I did not have sufficient healthcare. I did not have the luxury of having somebody else, kind of live and help me take care of them at the time. It was a complete juggling act, and all of the balls in the air were on fire.
Yes. And for a lot of people, it's still like that now. As we mentioned at the beginning, it's very, are you familiar with the book, The Second Shift?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I remember I read that back, I think it was in college. And I mean, it's a million times more amplified now, but it's a real thing. And, now getting into the issue of rest, I mean, I've been in holistic health and wellness for over 3 decades. And one of my mentors is Paul Chek, who's basically the grandfather of holistic health and wellness. And he has a system called the 4 Doctors system. And in a nutshell, it's doctor diet, and pay attention to your diet, doctor movement, doctor diet, doctor movement, doctor quiet, which is the one that's going to be involved with what we're talking about at rest, and doctor happy. And doctor happy is basically what we were mentioning about your values and living your dream. We all are born with a dream of what would be our dream life and dream situation and what lights up our soul and makes us feel fulfilled and happy. And we know what our gifts are and what our purpose is. And that's what's fulfilling. So those 4 doctors, if you don't have your diet dialed in and you're not moving your body, because we're physical creatures, and you're not doing something in your life, it doesn't have to be your job, but at least you have that outlet. Maybe you just paint at night, or you have a choir group you sing with every Tuesday. There's some kind of outlet that feeds your soul, and Dr. Quiet, then the rest of it is just like a bunch of hooey. It's not going to make any difference. So I loved when I was preparing, and you had mentioned the book Sacred Rest, which is tremendous, by the way. I love that that's a big part of your work is explaining to people how rest is a huge, huge component, a necessary ingredient for really the foundation for all these other things to really work. In fact, you said that rest is necessary to combat burnout, but it's much more nuanced than just taking a vacation or a nap, which is so great because many people, that's what they think. When they think of rest, they think, oh, okay, yeah, no, I sleep 8 hours a night, but that's not what you're talking about. Finding out the specific type of rest that you need can make it much more attainable and effective. So let's talk about rest. Tell us about sacred rest, how it's different than what most people think and why it's important.
Yeah. So I was introduced to sacred rest and read the book and really I loved the book, but
Tremendous.
When I thought about what is the application of this for other people, I started really thinking about a lot of my coaching clients, and the folks that I get to work with are at all different levels of leadership or wanting to be in leadership, or they're in transition. There's something going on for them. And I used to talk a lot about batteries and batteries not being charged, and how just like your phone battery, that if you let it go all the way to 0, it's really hard to get it to ever recharge all the way up again. So all these battery analogies were kind of top of mind for me before I read the book Sacred Rest. And then one day I was in a yoga class. So it sounds fake, but this was real. I was in a yoga class at a bar, and the power to the heater was off. The heater was not working. So they had all of these space heaters plugged into the walls. And suddenly half of the space heaters stopped working. And everyone said, oh no, these heaters are broken. And like, the heaters aren't broken. Where's the breaker box? Let me at the breaker box. So I went in and I jiggled and tried to figure out which breaker in the circuit breaker was not working or was turned off or had broken. The circuit had broken, and I fixed it, and the heat's back on. Everyone's back to yoga. Life is good again. And that was like this big epiphany. And it was that it's not a battery. We are a circuit breaker box. And the rest piece is that, if one of those layers of rest or types of rest is in jeopardy, and I'll tell you what the 7 are in a second, then you will have, you could be shut down completely. You could be completely out of power. And in order to fix it, you don't need a full life overhaul or a giant vacation, sabbatical, whatever rest is you're thinking that you need.
Your job,
exactly.
Move
you don't need to blow it all up. Yeah,
so
burn
true.
it down.
So true.
Instead, it's really more like go jiggle the right circuit, and maybe things will come back on for you. And so
I love that.
The 7 types of rest are pretty simple, and the book is amazing. But one of the things about the book that I thought needed to have translation, at least in the work that I do, is that not everyone that I come from is from a specific spiritual background. The book is very heavily anchored in a journey of Christianity.
That is, yeah.
And that isn't necessarily my clientele or the people that I've worked with. And so one of the types of rest is spiritual rest. And spiritual rest is really that sense of awe. And to regain it, it's broken. You don't have to be a religious person to have your spiritual rest messed with. Right. You could just lack motivation or have not really see the purpose in things. And the way to get around or get your spiritual rest back in check is to go be in nature, go find something bigger than yourself, whether it's a community, whether it's something inspiring, but like that inspiring piece that will come back into your life and be like, oh, I have awe again. I have wonder. I have, the things that really lift me. And I know that there's something bigger than this exact pinpoint moment in my life that I'm feeling is disastrous.
Perfectly said. So important. You nailed it. And it's like, well, it doesn't say religious rest. It says spiritual rest.
Yeah,
and,
it's the inside
it's a big, big difference. Yeah. And then you said it, the feeling of awe, what gives life meaning, what touches your soul, whatever it is, it's like, and a connection to something bigger, whether it be, something that you think is a deity or a force or a creatrix or whatever it is. That is so key because ultimately we're all going to return to source. I mean, why are we even here, And that's missing in a lot of people's lives.
Yeah, it could be your family, it could be your ancestors, it could be, people that you have become you because of, I think is another way to get in touch with your spiritual side. So spiritual rest is one of them. The two that people most usually think about are physical rest. I'm just tired. My body's tired. And emotional rest, which is kind of I'm emotionally depleted. There's something, which is kind of close to spiritual rest and some of the other types of rest. There's also mental rest where your brain just needs a break because you've been doing too much, and ways to get that. Very closely tied to that one is sensory rest. So I'm on a computer right now. I've already been on a computer for several hours today. Being able to know when my eyes start switching that I just need a break. I need some darkness. I need some sensory deprivation. I need something to like put that part to rest and to sleep. I think that's really what sensory rest is about. And it can be as simple as every 30 minutes, taking an eye break, looking off into the horizon, not staring at the screen, wearing blue light glasses. I mean, there's lots of different ways to get sensory rest. I can tell that I am triggered in this area when any noise starts to just really grate and irritate me. Smells start to be a little heightened or dulled. I mean, I think that there's that as well. That
yes,
you're kind of like one of your blinkers is just not working quite right.
Yeah.
And it's because you need sensory rest. You need to kind of go inside a little bit to be able to get that part of you back. Let's see, social rest, I think, is the other one. And that is really interesting in this world that we live in now. Social rest doesn't necessarily mean being by yourself. In order to get your social break that you need. Social rest is very much, you talked about like the types of people that are bringing you energy and the type of energy that you're around. Social rest is taking a look at all the things that are draining you, the energy vampires in your life, and replacing them or slowly like putting boundaries around that. And instead going to the people and the things that lift you up and brighten your life or give you energy. Everyone, hopefully, I talk a lot about with my clients about your work best friend. And I'm a huge advocate of having a work BFF. I've had many in my time. I don't work with any of them anymore, and they're still considered my work best friends. And those are the people that can just they can break the tension in a room. You look forward to seeing them. They know enough about the general context of what you're dealing with every day so that your partner doesn't have to deal with what you went through at work.
Yes.
So those are the people that give you social rest, even though you might be doing something active or fun with them. And the one that was new to me, very new to me, was this idea of creative rest.
Yes. Love that.
And that's the seventh one, and it's kind of hidden, and I don't think a lot of people think about it. But whether you know it or not, we are all creative beings, or we have the potential to be creative beings. I learned to draw and paint from Sarah Gilman a couple of years ago in France, and it was this magical, amazing time in my life. And now it's a practice. It's something that I go back to and can get in touch with, and just become a better version of myself after I've had some time with a pen and some watercolors, or doing something that is, I tie-dyed a shirt with my high school students a couple of weeks ago. And they all turned out amazingly. I was terrified. I had never done that before. And it was just this like amazing process that everyone walked away. And even though we were having other conversations during that time, we were doing something with our hands, we were making something. And that piece really fed our creative soul, the part of us that was just like kind of itching to get out and get dirty and do something with your hands, and do something that has a product at the end that is better than you expected.
I love it. It's so brilliant. And I love Sandra's work on that, the 7 types of rest, because she articulates that so well. And, it's a big part of my show, Awakening Aphrodite, because it's bringing on board more of that feminine energy, which is the right brain. We're in a left brain culture. Even our school system, the Waldorf school system, they don't even let the kids have a computer, I think, until they're like, 12 or something. And they don't have them read or write because they want to develop the right brain before the left. It's very, very important. So painting and all these things are right brain activities. That's the feminine Aphrodite energy that we need to bring up to balance this excessive left brain, the analytical, the logical, the organized, the go do it, the driven, which is important too. But, when you can seesaw between the two is when really the magic happens. So I love that you and that book talks about the creative, because it's so, so missing. And people don't realize how freeing it is, because, think about it. You're only using half your capacity if you're predominantly left brain oriented in your life. And that's where the imagination comes in. And because we're here as creators, we each as a soul have our own soul imprint. Even our voice, as it's called, your voice print. We're all unique. We're here with a unique gift to give. And if you're not tapped into that creative element of your life and that outlet, you're never going to play your music. It's never going to shine because you're just not cultivating it. So I'm grateful that she brings that up in it. That's wonderful.
Yeah, there's a part of our brains that kicks in around age, I think 9 or 10, where you start to have this judgment about yourself. And you stop seeing yourself as an artist. I don't remember who I was listening to, but I watched an artist speak one time, and he asked everyone in the room, who in the room's an artist? And like a couple people raised their hands.
Yeah.
And he said, I asked that question in a group of kindergartners a week ago, and everyone raised their hand. Like, what are these? What's the difference? And when do you lose that artist piece? And it's when you start comparing against other people or against a perfect thing. So one of the things I like to do with adult learners is teach them how to draw the way that Sari taught me how to draw. And I like to use objects that are not perfect. They're from nature. So one time we took a pile of leaves, different types of leaves from outside, threw them on the table, told everyone to grab one and a pencil and a piece of paper. And the way that it was described to me is just pretend you're a tiny little ant, like walking around the edge of the object that you're trying to draw. And these grown adults were like, I'm going to go show this to my kid. Like, look what I drew. Like, look at this amazing thing. And part of having it be an object, a leaf, something that is kind of imperfect and also perfect at the same time, is that no one's ever going to see the actual leaf to compare.
Right. They can't judge your painting, which is what kills it. Yeah.
Which is what kills it for you. So really,
beautiful.
I love that exercise. And it really is, it's astounding to people who are like, oh, it's really not that it's not that hard. It's not that hard to do. And you feel so accomplished afterwards when you
That's brilliant.
just a silly leaf.
I'm so glad you shared that. I love that idea. Yeah, because just like us, there's no two leaves the same. So
Right.
no one can say that's wrong because that was my leaf and you can't see it. Yeah. You know, I used to have my own health and lifestyle club up in New England, and we would do workshops like wellness and holistic health workshops all the time on like chakras and whatever, different things, sound healing. And I used to run painting workshops. And people loved it. There's even a couple people to this day, because, you know, it's since closed, but that are still continuing to paint, and they are just unbelievably talented. But even everybody that went to every one of those workshops, and this is also a very important mental lesson for all of us as adults, is it's very revealing as to how you talk to yourself and how mean you are to yourself. Because a lot of times, like even to this day, and I really need to paint, you're reminding me, I should be painting more because I continue it on my own. But of course, I'm busy, right? Too busy to do that, which is exactly when I need to do it. But you catch yourself in judging it so much, and you lose the flow, and you know, trying to get the line straight. Oh crap, that line's crooked, or that eye looks funny, or the mouth is backwards, or whatever. And it's very revealing to your thought process. So it's very, very powerful. I'm glad you brought that up. It's in many ways. So not only that you're physically doing it, but also you learn a lot about yourself and your self-talk and all that stuff, because like how outcome oriented are you? I mean, that's the definition of play, right? Unbound activity. You're not tied to the outcome. You're just playing. Right? Kids just play, you know?
Eve Rodsky talks about, she has a book, Finding Your Unicorn Space.
Yes. Tell us about that.
And that is also kind of this, it's a similar concept, is that unicorn space is something that you get lost in, something that's just for you, and uniquely for you, and not about being a parent, not about being a partner, not about being a professional. And it's something that you miss when it's not there. So kind of the idea that if I didn't get to draw or paint or do something, and that's my unicorn space, that's where I feel kind of free to recharge and re-energize and become whole again, then those are that's what it is. And it's you can do it with other people and have community, and that's important too, but it shouldn't be dependent or, you know, a hobby that you do because somebody else does it, and that's where I'm meeting somebody else. So,
and the key to that is that you're in flow. Like basically when you're doing something like that, you lose your self-consciousness, and basically you're losing the identity with the ego. And that's the beauty of it, when you just kind of merge with all there is, like whether it be dancing, you know, you're just in the flow, and you get out of that left brain analytical judging, and you just are. And that's the magic of it. I love that. So important.
Yeah. Gardening. This is like in the Northwest, this is an amazing time of year, where every morning I have a ritual now where I go out and I water plants, and I do this. See my little guy in the back. Yeah. There's like a piece of it that if I don't get to do it, not only do the plants tell me that I missed the day, there's some instant feedback and gratification in it. Yeah. But I don't feel like I had that moment to ground and center and be me, and do something that is for nobody else but me. Love
it. You know, I'd like to circle back on the sensory rest, because that's another one. I'd say I agree with you. I think the creative and the sensory of the 7 are the two that really people wouldn't think of that we're talking about. You know, again, when people think of rest, they think, oh yeah, you know, I sleep 8 hours, or I take a nap on weekends. We're not talking about that, you know, because again, like you said, it's much more nuanced than just a vacation or a nap. These are specific areas, types of rest that they don't overlap. Like they're very unique to themselves. Like one can't fill up the other, you know, if you're not meeting the requirements. So sensory rest is a huge issue that I actually, just funny that we're meeting today, because I just had an epiphany and really changed course personally, because Well, I've been just an avid learner my whole life, right? Like I'm very growth minded. Like, how can I be better? And this and that. And I just love learning, right? And I know a lot of people do. So, geez, nowadays is a nightmare because you can have like podcasts going, you can have audiobooks, you got YouTube channel teaching you how to garden, you got a million things happening, right? So you're always like, it's like the filaments are like being buzzing, like they're shaking
all the
vibration,
time. Yeah.
right? Because you're always, your senses are literally like vibrating. Plus you've got the invisible electromagnetic rays from screens and all the stuff going on that we can't see, that your senses never get an off, So I just started this little thing myself where it sounds so silly, but I'm almost embarrassed to say it, but like when I take a shower and I get dressed and I, brush my hair or whatever, I have it quiet. I mean, in the past, that might not sound like much, but in the past, I would have an audiobook going or prepare for a podcast guest show or, research, whatever. And I changed it and I have it quiet. And it was like within the first day, after a few minutes, I was just like, I could breathe. I just was like, I felt my whole body just decompress because we don't have enough white space in our lives, right? We just don't have enough. Like everything's crammed in. And like we were saying in the beginning, we're just like, we get multitasking and all this stuff. We never have enough time, right? We run out of time. So this is a very simple thing that we can do. Just that little bit. I mean, how long does it take for you to take a shower? Get like 20, 25 minutes? Just start with that, but it's already made a huge difference. So honoring my need for sensory rest has been a game changer.
Totally. It changes the way you start the day. I think some people have like they'll put their phone outside of their room.
Yes.
At night, where they'll turn it off, or have a practice where you're not just instantly diving back in the morning when you get up before your eyes are like fully uncrusted, like that sort of thing. And so try to do something else before the rest of your brain lights are on. I think is a good time to try to do that. But also just like be comfortable in silence. Like we are so uncomfortable when we can hear the noises and the crickets and the slow buzzing of a fish tank.
But again, that's such an important point, Adrianne, because that's, again, back to Aphrodite and awakening the feminine. That's the receiving. If you're constantly like engaged in your left brain and you're even if in an audiobook, you've got your analytical, logical brain is working. You're not, you think, oh, I am receiving, I'm listening to or something. But it's not like that. It's more you're allowing stuff to just kind of unfold without kind of making it happen.
One of the pieces, and I'm trying to remember if it's for the sensory rest, or it might even be the mental rest. But when I've taught on rest, I like to come back to this. There's a song called "Weightless," and it is. I heard about it in it must have been 2016 while I was pregnant with my firstborn. It is clinically kind of been scientifically proven to lower your blood pressure.
Nice.
And it's kind of like the song that you imagine you hear at any spa. And it really does like kind of pull everything down. And so I'll play that music sometimes, that specific song for folks, just to kind of see. And they're always a little bit surprised of like their heart rate, like they can feel it.
Oh, yeah.
You normally can't feel your heart rate, or you shouldn't feel your heart rate, but you can tell when it's high.
That's right. Or it becomes the new normal and you're not even aware how much it's like, tension and aggravating until you decompress. It's like when you get a massage, you didn't know how tight you were till after. You're like, oh God, like, wow, my shoulders are not on my ears. Like, yeah, it becomes the new normal, which is a problem.
Yeah. So I learned about that song while I was pregnant, and I listened to it throughout my pregnancy to kind of help bring me into a quiet space. And Amy, this is the song that my 8-year-old now requests whenever he's had a day.
Nice.
And it like pulls him back down, and I don't know what their ears can hear.
Yeah.
on the inside. But the fact that he now has that practice as well to like just tune out and to have that break in your brain to rest, and the rest of your body feels it. I think it's pretty awesome. So I love that and recommend it for people all the time. And I don't remember the story that I was listening to that was telling me about it, but I'm like super grateful.
Well, you're talking about sound therapy, and I'm a big fan of that. I've got my core harmonizer, the creator of that on the show, which is on the hertz of the heart frequency, the heart chakra, or the earth chakra, like this. The Schumann resonance and all that. And then listening to Smile is very, very powerful. It's like audio albums. And you can even tailor them to different parts of your body, pain, whatever. Very powerful because, our cells are vibrating, and the sound, just like water and light and food, they all affect that electrical circuit. So it's very, very powerful. And what a beautiful lesson for your son to self-soothe and cope with something that's healing rather than destructive, like drinking or over shopping or doing drugs or, overworking out, whatever. It's beautiful when people learn of healthy healing, self-soothing and enhancing options. I love sharing that kind of stuff. Thank you for telling us that. Love that. So as we get to the end here, I can't let you go without talking about what you've learned from your work with Sari and self-care. Because Sari is the boundary queen and she is the self-care queen. And everybody, I mentioned in the intro, please make sure you listen to that episode, Awakening Aphrodite with Sari. I think it was 41. I'm going to say it in the intro and we'll have it in the notes. And she came on again, by the way, and did the self-care wheel for us. And that'll probably air before your episode does, Adrianne. So I'll refer everybody to those 2 episodes with Sari for sure. So tell us about the self-care, what you learned from Sari and what you actually do to make it happen.
Yeah. So after Sari wrote Naming and Taming Overwhelm, she did a series of local workshops, couple of hour workshops that people could drop in. And I went to one, and something that I always come back to this is that at the beginning we were asked to describe what is overwhelm. And I think it's like burnout. Like it's hard to describe. It's hard to put your finger on when it was. And someone gave the best description of overwhelm, and I use it to this day, and I think about it all the time. And it was, and I honestly can't remember who said it, but the person in the workshop with me said, it's looking around and thinking, where are the adults? Only to realize that we are the adults. and that is like kind of a good summary of how I've been feeling over the last the few years leading up to my overwhelm and my burnout and journey. So I think about that a lot, and that's kind of the piece of that I've taken from her is that concept. The other thing, and we've done a little bit of work together in this idea of trauma and secondary trauma with folks who are caretakers. So people that work in the medical field or people that work as first responders, people that have kind of been on the front lines of some sort, and especially during the pandemic. And the other piece that she does, I should say, that I've learned a lot from is this idea of self-compassion.
Yes.
Which is totally different than self-care, but not unrelated. And the way that she thinks about self-compassion is brilliant. And the way that she teaches people to deal with and understand self-compassion has really changed me. So a practice that I now have is whenever I'm feeling down about something, overwhelmed by something, exhausted by something, really just feeling defeated generally, she recommends that people think about a time that you've been through something really hard and think about yourself in that time. And then also remember that you got through it because you're here today.
Nice.
And then giving yourself grace and knowing that you have it within you to get through hard things and to deal with that. And that while it may not look the way you think it will, and we kind of have this perfectionism curse in this country as women, as moms, that haunts us sometimes. It may not look the way that you have imagined or perfected, but it'll look the way that it's supposed to look. and things will come out that way and it'll be okay. And so I think that's the piece that I really have taken from her, borrowed from in the work that I do and helping other people, is this concept of self-compassion that is not, it's not pretending that there's nothing wrong or that you didn't do anything wrong. It's just taking the shame of it, the shame part out of it, and knowing that we are all human and that we will get through it. I think that's kind of the big one for me.
So brilliant. It's like we're our own worst critics, right? It's just like that shame and that judgment and that berating ourselves is so damaging to your soul and your spirit. Yeah. I love that. I like when you said, giving yourself some grace. Yeah. That's such a beautiful thought. Like, oh my gosh, give yourself a little grace, like it's powerful, amazing. Yeah. Oh my goodness. All right. So any final thoughts today that you want to get across to the audience based on all your work and experience helping people be leaders and be more fulfilled and, all that? What do you have anything extra today?
I think and one of my other core values that I don't think about a lot, but I practice quite often is humor.
Nice.
And I really do think that in the hardest times, with the people with that community that I talked about building, being able to come back to humor is really important. It's important to heal you. It's important to remind you that there are lighter things. The world is really daunting right now. I've had to take a break from listening to news radio in the car, and a diet, if you will, of being able to really take care of myself whenever I engage with anything in the news cycle. And there's always something funny. And for me, the funny thing is usually it's my children. My one goal before I had kids was to have kids that were funny. And I think I've done it. And now my new goal for them is to teach them how to be good roommates to future people.
Nice. How old are they?
My youngest is 6, and I also have an 8-year-old, and then I earned a almost 20-year-old and a 22-year-old in marriage. So we have four total, but they're all very funny people. And my daughter yesterday just it cracked me up. It stung really hard, but also like the funniest things just come out of her mouth and she doesn't even think about it. Right. But it really lights things up. And when she told me, I had just done her hair for the morning and I just put it in a bun and she said, "Mama, is it beautiful?" And I said, "Yeah, your hair is beautiful." She said, "If you worked a little harder on yours could be beautiful too." And I laughed
awesome.
so hard. And it was just perfect. It was what I needed in the moment.
That's brilliant.
I did wear a hat all day as that feedback stung a little bit.
That's awesome though. I love it.
But yeah, just knowing that and looking for the things that are funny. There's like endless number of things that are humorous. If you just think about it, you can find something. And that sometimes breaks that stress cycle as well. And when you're feeling really burnt out, just like try really hard. It may be really hard to draw a smile or to laugh or at anything. But if you can break through that and even just laughing at the situation, knowing that someday this will be a funny story that I'm going to tell people, or this is really ironic and I can't believe that this is happening right now. I can't wait till I get to laugh about it. I think is a really helpful thing that I like to advise to people. And
letting yourself feel it. You know what I mean? Like you might have been late for work when you were doing her hair and you were, all the stuff's going on, but just letting yourself really, it's like giving yourself that gift to feel the endorphins laughing your body. Like, just like, don't let that go by without filling you up emotionally, because that kind of stuff is what gets us through, and I always say kids and animals are our best teachers and they're the best comedians. I mean, I'm right with you. Nothing makes me laugh like my animals and kids around me. They're just absolutely hysterical. So thank God for them, right? They keep it in perspective, teach us how to live. I can't wait to have this air and share this with everybody. It's such important stuff, everyone. Thinking about rest as a requirement and the nuances of rest, and that it's much more than just sleep, much more than just the physical rest, which a lot of us need as well. But the other ways that we need rest to refill our cups in order to feel good, and just be all we want to be. So how can people find you if they want more information?
Yeah, well, I'm in Snohomish County doing a lot of things, but
Michigan, right? No,
Washington State. Yeah. But if people want to find me and connect on LinkedIn, that's usually the best way to find me. And I'm happy to reach out to people if there's anything that people need and want to learn more. I'm happy to do that. I have a small coaching practice, but it is intentionally small. And if there's something that
boundaries.
Yeah, exactly. If there's something I can do to help people, then I will absolutely do it. But also I have a lot of coaching friends and people that I could recommend to help as well. So.
That's excellent. I'm curious, you mentioned that you were giving a talk on the 7 types of sacred rest. Just curious real quick before I let you go, what was the feedback on that?
Yeah, it was really positive. So one component of it is I've taken, borrowed from Sandra in her book. And I think online you can go to restquiz.com and she has a version of a quiz that you can take, and it's a personal assessment. Mm-hmm. And it's just like a series of 60 or so questions where you rate yourself and kind of how you're feeling. And then you get an output that tells you what your top 3 things are. And so I think we did that exercise during the rest workshop that I ran. And it was really surprising for people to realize like, oh, I thought my body was just tired. And that was one of my lowest scoring areas. It was all these other things that are causing me to be tired, and I can't really turn my brain off at night, or whatever the things are that they gave. It gave them the ability to try something for every category of rest. We did an exercise to try to put something into practice so they could walk away with something. So that was really the piece of it. I'm doing a few other versions of this because folks have requested it for their workplace. Right. And they are the organizations that I'm working with are organizations that serve people from marginalized communities, people with disabilities, and other places where they are all caretakers and have need for rest. They can't take a break, or there's definitely this real challenge with getting a breakaway or using your PTO. And so I'm really just excited to see where this goes next, and to think about how groups can support one another, can draw in community, and just have some self-compassion and realize that they can get to a better place. It may not be a perfect place, but at least a little better place of relief by just working on some simple steps.
Well, it's so powerful because, like you said, a lot of them thought it was physical tired. Like I'm sure many people listening and watching, feel tired, but they don't realize like if you're not meeting the right requirement, it's never going to be full. So it's like, if you're not drinking enough water, but you keep eating more food, thinking that's going to give you the energy, but you don't realize you're dehydrated. You're not malnourished.
You're not regenerating.
Exactly. It's like you're not regenerating the right category. So you're not going to ever get to where you're going. So that's why I love the book, and that, she categorizes the 7 types. I'm just curious, how did you do the test in a group like that? Did you just print it? Because it's online.
No, I built I used the questions, gave her credit, and put it online in an app format so people could just scan it and did it on their phones. And then they had the results right away.
I see. So this wasn't an in-person lecture.
This was on Zoom, but I've also done the same thing for in-person.
Really?
Where we just put a QR code up on the screen and everyone brings out their devices. I give them permission to bring out their devices during the day, and then they take it and it's right in their lap.
That's a good use of technology right there.
Yes.
That's awesome. Brilliant. Yeah. I love it. You are doing such important work in the world. We are grateful for people like you. Thank you for being such a wonderful role model and helping all of us. Thank you for making the time to come on the show. Absolutely. And it's just been such a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Amy. Thanks for having me.
All right, everybody, you know what to do. If you enjoyed the show, and I know you did, please leave a review, share it with someone that needs more sacred rest. And we'll see you next time on Awakening Aphrodite.